Hello, friends, and welcome back to Cascade Pacific Woodworks. Appreciate you being with us here. I appreciate those who've been following along. Welcome back. And if any of you are new here, welcome. Happy to have you here. So, we're starting on a new project to take you along with today. So, I'm sitting here with a bunch of beams, and we'll get into these in a second. But I had a returning client come to me with who's building a new home and asked if I could design and build a mantle and a mantle platform for his new fireplace. So I'm going to take you through the steps of kind of how this process works if you work with us, and we'll start right here. So the first step is have that initial conversation with the client, and then and then kind of talk about some notional details. And then I went out and visited him on the site and got a sense for the space, the colors, the lighting, and what he is looking for. And so I found out what he was looking for is a mantle that is about 6 inches deep and about 4 inches tall is what he's notionally thinking. And so from there we go on to step two, which is kind of doing the what I call the design and refine stage. So I'll take you really quickly through the design and refine stage. I've already done that part. So here's what that looks like. So when we're on site with the client, listening to what they're telling us, I'll start just doing an initial sketch right on the spot, and probably go through a few of these. It takes less than a minute to do each one until we kind of get to a place where he or she says, "Yep, that feels about right. Let's take it from there." So from there, I'll come back to the home office and start doing a little bit more of a refined sketch, from a pencil sketch to a sketch in our CAD program, to start coming up with some basic dimensions, some basic features, trying to create, get all the proportions correct for what is there and what the surrounds look like. And so we go back and forth on that a little bit until, and then once that looks good with the client, then we'll go to the next refining stage, which is to start adding some colors and textures to the design. So here is just the kind of the final line drawing, but we're starting to put some colors, some metal, some wood, some slots, some corners, and things like that to get a little bit better feel for what this is going to look like for the client. And as we go along, we get buy-in and make small adjustments here and there as the client wants. The final step with the refine and design phase is to do a realistic rendering of this design, and that's kind of the final buy-off with the client. So let me show you the rendering real quick. So the rendering is kind of the final step with the client, so they get a very, very accurate depiction and picture in their mind of almost exactly what the final product is going to look like when it's installed in their home. There's going to be a few nuances. I mean, we're talking about wood here, so the color and grain patterns are going to be slightly different. But to probably a 95% level, the customer will have the peace of mind knowing what it's going to look like. So once we do that final rendering and they say, "Yep, that's perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for," then we move on to the fourth step, which is sourcing the actual materials. And that's where we're at today. These are the materials we found, and these have a really cool story behind them. It took some time to find them. We had to find things that were going to fit the dimensions that we're looking for. So these, I'll show you in detail in a second. But these beams, I think they're hemlock, and they have a neat story behind them. They came out of a carriage house that was built in the late 1800s out in central Connecticut and Meriden, Connecticut. This carriage house was sat next to a hotel, which was along the line of passage between Hartford and New Haven back in the day when people traveled on horse and carriage. So these beams were in a carriage house sitting next to the hotel. I know this because I talked to the family member the property's been in their family since the 1800s, so they have the full history of the property. And the person who I bought these from, who is now in his 80s, was the person who disassembled the carriage house about 15 years ago and had been holding on to these beams until luckily I was able to find him. So these have a great story, a unique story, and I'm going to show you a little bit closer what they look like. Okay, so here are the beams that we have to work with. We're here at our what I'll call our loading dock, where these things before they go into down into the shop to be worked. So we have about 6 of the beams here of kind of differing lengths and widths. These two right here are the ones that are 6x4, so we're going to predominantly fill the role for making the mantle. And then if you saw in the drawing and the rendering, there was also a platform up on top, which is these are going to be used for. So these things are full of all sorts of neat history. You can see here there's tons and tons of nail holes. Old-fashioned cut nails that look like this. This one actually broke off, but these old-fashioned iron cut nails, we have to get all those out of here because for a number of reasons, but we don't want to be running any tools through here and hit any metal. Here's a neat old section of this one, which is a mortise and tenon from the timber frame construction, held in with a peg that's still there. So anyways, this wood is in really neat shape. You can see a lot of the saw marks. I don't know if you can see right here, but see all these arcs right here are the old saw marks from the mill that cut this wood back in the mid 1800s. So we're going to preserve the character of this wood as much as possible. That's what the client wants. He's looking for kind of a rustic, industrial, rugged type of a design, and we're going to do that. So sourcing the materials is our step that we're finished with here today. And so when you tune back in next time, we're going to go into the construction phase of this build. So anyways, I appreciate you sticking with us. We're running low on our coffee mugs, so if you want one, make sure you hop in on it before the Christmas holiday. These are highly coveted and everyone loves them, so get yours. And with that, we'll check in with you on the next part of this build coming soon. Take care.